Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. Once again, we've caught you off guard. We've got a new host for this week. Well, a returning host, I suppose, my second time hosting Down the Slope. I'm Harry, and today we've got a full house once again. So, Ewan, how we doing?
Good mate, considering
Liam, I'm glad you're alive and with us now. How you doing?
Yeah, less said about that, the better.
Christ, all right, we're getting less and less enthusiasm, but we've got our most enthusiastic guy next. Greg, how are you today?
If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Well, apparently you're going to be in a lot of trouble because I'm expecting a lot of speaking from you today.
There is a general rule in podcasts,
Yeah, well, being honest, boys, I think the best thing to do is let's just get stuck straight into this. So, obviously, going up to Aberdeen in terrible form, haven't won in 10 games, lost their last 5. Hibs aren't looking too pretty in the last few weeks either. However, it was a very changed lineup. We were speaking last week and we did say that we wanted to see major changes throughout the team. Liam, when the team was announced, what did you think?
I said that team wins it, IMO, on Twitter. And that's the last tweet that I sent. It was on Saturday at 2:00. And I've not really been back on Twitter since because the fear, I can't handle looking at it, to be honest. So I'm just going to out myself straight away. I thought that team had enough in it. I thought that team had enough in it to win the game. I liked the fact they brought McGregor back in. I think some of the calls for Gullen to be included were answered. I'm not going to say whether I think that's right or wrong, but certainly there's a lot of Hibs fans who are opinion they deserve a chance to get the opportunity. So on the face of it, that was a team that could have gone to Pittodrie and win the game.
And as the only guy that went there from us on the pod, what was the general atmosphere after the team was announced? Because you can normally get a vibe after the team's out, whether everybody's positive or a bit,
I think most people I spoke to were quite happy with that team, actually. I think most of the reactions were quite positive. I thought it was 4 changes, which was quite unlike Jack Ross as well. So maybe people thought by making more changes that would get rid of the feeling of that team from the Saturday before. I don't know, but it seemed positive.
And Greg, you're a resident defender. What did you think about the 2 changes at the back with Stevenson stepping in for Doig and McGregor coming in for Wood? Before the game, what was your initial impressions of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was quite happy because obviously I asked for that last week. I said that, we had to change at the back, and I don't think Wood was the answer. I mentioned Doig was very weak against Dundee United, so I was quite happy to see Stevenson come in. Usually he's a player that doesn't really get beat one-on-one of wingers or fullbacks, so going into the game I was quite happy with the defensive changes. Obviously there's one that stands out that I would have liked, but we don't have enough bodies at the back for that. So, but certainly going into the game I was feeling quite positive about it. I thought that hopefully shaking it up was going to kind of make us more aware and bring a different aspect to our game, but I'm sure we'll get onto that.
Yep, no, we definitely will. And Ewan, coming to you, question for yourself. Apart from maybe me, you're the one that probably beats on the Jamie Murphy drum the most. Were you shocked to see him dropped at the weekend? That was the main flag for me before the game.
Because I was surprised that he started Gullen. I'll be honest, I know he had obviously spoken in the press during the week and stuff, and but I sort of interpreted that as he was going to get a decent outing from the bench more than coming straight in. So I was surprised, and I think I said last week that Murphy was probably our better. I'm not going to say best, but the better of all them against Dundee United. And yeah, I think he is probably our best player just now. Obviously, he's only just come back for injury. Maybe that's why we think he's the best player, because we've only seen him a wee bit. But that was a surprise. But the team in general was pretty happy with. But this is the thing, like, people go on about our squad, but I think no matter what team we put out, the bench is maybe another thing. But I think we're capable of putting out a few different 11s that I would probably always look at and go and say that's a good team, because it was the same against Dundee United, and you expect us to go and win.
Yeah, so I think before we started the game, we've all established that the team, I wasn't against the way the team was. I was just kind of surprised, and it's not the first time under Jack Ross I've kind of struggled to understand what he's been going for the system. I did think the players looked kind of dotted around the pitch, and I always think when Cadden, McGinn and Boyle are in, that it just kind of looks like they shoehorned people in there. But yeah, apart from that, I wasn't complaining. I wasn't thinking we were going to go out and play terrible. But the game kicked off, and we were flat. Every problem that we had last week, I personally thought it was even worse. It just looked like there was no energy in the team, no belief. Moving forward, nothing really. Defensively, I didn't think there was too much issues until something that we'll come on to in a bit. And yeah, I just didn't think there was any midfield. Liam, what was your initial impressions for the first 15, 20 minutes?
I think since I've come on this podcast and I've talked about the times that Hibs have been good, there's been two things that I've mentioned consistently, and one of them is fluency and the other one's intensity, and we had absolutely none of that in the first half. There was no speed of thought. There was no effort to really move the ball at any great speed. It was all very fucking one-paced. It was all... It appeared to me on Saturday like we had turned up to Aberdeen without a game plan of any description, or certainly without a game plan that was going to give us a foothold in the game. That's how it looked to me. I think the system chopping and changing as it has done over the last couple of weeks probably hasn't helped some of that as well a wee bit.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the fourth game in a row we've actually changed the system going into the game, which is crazy. Like, no team's going to be able to play fluently if that's the case.
No. I'm probably in danger of contradicting myself, because I think I've also said that here a couple of times that I don't think the system matters if you've got the right players and all that. I do think if you're going to change every week, it probably does begin to matter.
Yep, Ewan?
Yeah, just speaking about the system, post game and stuff, I was thinking about had we ever even played that before? And I remember one game we played it with slightly different personnel, and I've just got the team up just now. We tried to play a 3-4-3 with sort of tight forwards against St Johnstone in the League Cup semi-final, and we know what happened there. We played Cadden as a wing back and Doig as wing backs, with Boyle and Murphy very close to Doig. Boyle and Murphy very close to Nisbet that day. So it was pretty much just obviously different personnel. It was Irvin and Gogic in the middle of the park, but it didn't work then. And he changed it that game. And obviously, I don't think we've sort of seen that 3-4-3 since. Because that was, I want to say it was Cadden's debut as well. And he played that sort of right wing back role. And obviously, Irvin had just came in the door, and it just, I think what Liam says there as well, like we wanted to see wholesale changes, but it's like we are seeing the changes now as well. So it's like, what does he do next? It's a bit worrying.
All right, well, I think, to be honest, boys, we're sounding understandably flat after the weekend. So I'm going to try and poke the bear a bit. Greg, I think that Jack Ross got everything wrong in hindsight. I do think he got several things wrong. What did you think of the manager's performance at the weekend?
It's very, very much the same as the week before. I mean, if he's changing the system 4 times, as you said, Harry, then that's a man that reeks of desperation. He obviously, for me, not reading into it too much. I think he's maybe flapping now because we were absolutely battered off Dundee United at home. Pathetic, and we've gone to Aberdeen and not even laid a glove on a team that have been beat, that haven't won in 10 games. You know, we've not even managed a shot on target. So for me, you know, I think I've been very vocal in what I think of Jack Ross, and, you know, maybe that's changed since he's come in. But for me, it's so inept, and do you know what? It's the post-match interview again that really stuck with me. It's just incredibly soft, and it pretty much sums up Hibs at the moment. We are soft. We've got no aggression. We've got no urgency. You know, there's just nothing there, and I just really don't know where we go for here. But something needs to change, and it needs to change drastically.
Yeah, on you go, Ian.
Yeah, no, just for what Greg's saying there, like, I think he is flapping a wee bit, but he is changing it, and I don't think so. This is where I don't think you can criticise Ross for that. I think the players are letting him down massively just now. Like, we don't have a single player in form. Not one. Not one player is playing well, really. Like I said earlier, Murphy's probably our best player right now, and he's played 90 and 45 minutes in the last couple of months. Like, so literally because he's not had enough time to be really bad, he's been our best player. It's just for me, it's just entirely on the players right now. I'm sure the manager does play a part, but he sets up a team to go to Aberdeen with 3 strikers on the pitch.
If you don't mind, I think that statement there that Jack Ross gets none of the blame entirely nonsense after that at the weekend.
No,
I think defensively I can't complain, but there was literally no midfield the entire game, and there was no connection from the midfield or to the defense or the midfield to the attack. I think that Gullen, when he was at Wraith, at that level, he was able to be, I like to call him an island player, so the type of player you can put on the wing on his own and he can make things happen. But in the game at the weekend, Martin Boyle got double teamed on one side and they were confident enough to leave Ramsey on him, and then whoever came on for Ramsey one-on-one with Gullen, and he was completely nullified. If Murphy was in that position, because Murphy, as he's shown in the second half, he can actually take players on one-on-one and actually make things happen. But as soon as Boyle gets nullified and taken out the game, our whole game plan was gone. And when we don't have him again, it's through the middle to join the midfield to the attack and give that burst of energy. You've literally just got nothing in front of the defence.
Yeah, I know, but I absolutely agree with. Sorry, Liam, just I'll let you come in after this, but I agree with what you said, Harry. But for me, saying the defence isn't a concern is incredibly naive.
No, obviously the defence has been a concern this season, and we're going to
after every single game because every time a ball comes in the box, we can't defend it properly.
You're skipping. I've set an agenda and you're skipping it. So let's rewind back here a second. I think the main problem for me at the weekend, though, obviously the defence. When we come on to the goal, we'll talk about that. But I don't think the defence was the main worry. It was everything else in front of it that was problematic. But Liam,
I just think on the Jamie Murphy thing, what's Jamie Murphy done in a Hibs shirt to deserve some of the plaudits and some of the praise that he gets? Because quite frankly, he looks good sometimes when he slaloms past a man, but how often does it result in an end product? So many shots go across the goalkeeper to get panned back out. His crosses rarely beat the first man. I'm sorry, but Jamie Murphy, I think he gets far too easy a ride, and it's not. And I don't think anything of that is to do with the fact that he spends so much of the time injured. I just don't think he's very good. I think in a one-on-one situation he can go past a player, but what fucking use is that if you don't make use of the ball when you go past them? I'm sorry, but like that's ultimately Jamie Murphy's Hibs career in a nutshell is missed opportunities. If I was to define Jamie Murphy's Hibs career, the miss against St Johnstone, the misses over the last couple of weeks, he gets himself into good positions, but it doesn't do anything with it.
The Dundee one was a stinker as well.
I think a lot of it for ultimately when you hit the first man, that obviously that's entirely on you as the crosser, but the forward players in general, whether it be Boyle on one side or Murphy on the other side or Scott Allen in the 10, they've got fuck all to go from in the mid. Like there's nothing happening. Like I think it was Murphy that drilled that across the box in the second half, which was ultimately our only chance. I'm sorry, Nisbet has to get on that, and he's inches away. Whatever he has to be there. But if you're like, there's no other option for me. That is inexcusable. And there should be someone coming in behind them as well. I don't know what Boyle's doing in that instance. Like at the start of the season, we were getting so many bodies into the box. We were scoring goals for crosses. Josh Doig looked good. Jamie Murphy looked good because we were putting balls in and we were doing stuff with it. Whether it be McGuinness, Doig was fit. You're getting nothing in the box now. We spoke all season about how good we are getting the ball wide. What use is it getting the ball wide when the players in the box are inept to getting in front of centre halves?
I think that's a fair point. One more thing I'll say about Murphy is like Ryan Kent when he first went to Rangers, I gave him a lot of flack. But I think one thing that goes on, like it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. I think you need to have players that actually excite the fans and actually provide a spark and just get them lifted a bit. Because even if it doesn't end up in an end product, when Murphy takes on players, it gets a bit of momentum behind the team and it gives the other players a bit of belief. I know that might sound like absolute nonsense, but I think it's true. And then when he skins a man, then next time he's on the wing, there'll be more bodies over to try and help counteract that situation. It leaves extra bodies open in the middle. So even though he doesn't consistently show up in the stat sheet, I still think he has a major impact. But
there's validity in what you're saying there, absolutely, and you're right that people pay money to go and see players that excite them. However, we're a team full of players that excite people, and what they've served up the last couple of weeks is exciting absolutely nobody. The players who are meant to be the exciting players are exciting nobody. So this is what happens when you go through a bad spell and you've got a team full of, dare I say it, luxury players. Which one of them is standing up and being counted? Because Murphy hasn't, Boyle hasn't, Allen hasn't. They're our supposed flair players.
I agree. And that's for me why right now the blame for me isn't on the man. He is playing his part, but for me, that's why the blame isn't on the manager right
He
now.
plays his part because we continually play one up front.
But who else? But he never played one up front at the weekend.
Well, I mean, to be
The
honest,
second half against
Boyle
Dundee
out
United, he
wide.
never. Nah, I think we definitely. It was like I don't feel like they were out wide at all. In fact, they weren't. Cadden was the only boy out on the right hand side on the first half. Cadden pretty much had the right hand side to himself. At times, he probably could have done with someone because he looked promising in a few instances. But like Jack Ross is deservedly coming under a bit of pressure. But for me right now, the drop off in performance level, we probably judge Martin Boyle to a higher standard than anyone else in this team because we know what he's capable of. Look at Martin Boyle's production 2 months ago to now.
As soon as folk mark him at the game, that's Hibs have got absolutely nothing else.
That's not true. That's not true though. Every player's playing poorly now. You can't say we've got nothing else. Just like Liam says, you've got Murphys, you've got Allens, you've got Nisbets, you've got Boyle. All the players are capable of doing things in games. Joe Newell scores at Dundee United. He's capable of playing good passes. Jake Doyle-Hayes is a good midfielder. Josh Doig last season was probably the best left back in the country, getting up and down the park. Paul McGinn's capable of getting up and down the park. Like nobody in this team is playing well just now, and I don't believe
they've not been playing well for a week. So that's surely players don't go 4 weeks worth of being shit. For me, they don't. A bad spell does not last for 4 weeks without other factors. This is where my worry comes into it, is that we've been shit for weeks and it shows no sign of stopping.
All right, so we've banged some drums that I didn't expect to bang quite yet, but right, so we were all unimpressed by the start of the game. We didn't come out the gates very well, but then the ball broke. I believe it was a long ball forward. Aberdeen end up winning it. Breaks to Scott Brown, plays the ball down the wing to Ramsey, cuts it back. It's as simple a goal as you'll see. If you go down to your local under 12s game, you'll see a goal exactly like that. Not tricky at all for Aberdeen. It didn't look like. Personally, was unimpressed. As soon as it hit the back of the net, I just thought that was so fucking easy. I was just so annoyed because professional footballers shouldn't be conceding goals like that. But Ewan, what was your thoughts as soon as the goal went in? What do you think?
Exactly what you said, mate. It looked easy. It was easy. There's a couple of things, right? People will probably, and rightfully so, look at Hanlon's choice to cover the front post for the ball going across instead of dropping on Ramirez. I think the first thing to say is I think it's a very good goal from Aberdeen. I'll be honest. I think they work it well. It's very good striking play from Ramirez to recognise where the space is. You know what I mean? I think if that's us working it to Boyle finding Nisbet, finishes it like that, I think we are waxing lyrical about it. So I think it's a good goal. But I looked at I think the SPFL tweeted the goal today. Scott Brown gets the ball about a yard inside our half, and Joe Newell is dead in line with Ramirez inside the semicircle, so say 5 yards inside the Hibs half. 5 seconds later, as Ramsey's crossing the ball, Ramirez is inside the Hibs box. Joe Newell's still a good 10 yards outside the box. He's hardly even in the picture. So, yes, I accept Hanlon should make the decision to go with the player instead of the space. It's a 50-50 choice. He's got to try and guess where Ramsey's putting the ball. For me, 100% he should go with the man. Mark the man, not the space, and McGregor's behind him. So Hanlon doesn't cover himself in glory, but it's inexcusable from Joe Newell to let Ramirez get 15 yards on him. It looks like a solid 10-15 yards on him in the space of 5 seconds. We were quick enough earlier in the season to criticise Gogic for letting Paul McGowan run off the back of him and not the defenders because Gogic should be tracking his run. Well, Joe Newell should be tracking him. He's jogging back and then he has the cheek to moan when Aberdeen score. Now, I don't mind that because we've said there should be reactions when we concede goals. But Joe Newell is so far away from Ramirez. It's embarrassing. And I don't think you'd notice that straight away until you watch it back a few times. It's very clear. You say Stevenson should block the cross, Hanlon should go with the man. But see if Joe Newell does his job and as the midfielder comes with the runner that's coming from midfield. Paul Hanlon covering the space at the front post doesn't get really criticised. You know what I mean? We talk about stopping things at source. Well, go with your man. Stevenson, for me, is just, he's old. He gets done by an 18-year-old. If we had Stevenson and Josh Doig in a foot race, I'd expect Josh Doig to win it. So I would expect Calvin Ramsey to beat him in a race. The ball got put into space. Stevenson's caught out in the left wing back position, slightly higher up than what he would be at left back. And I think it's just that's a byproduct of playing him where he did. But again, we all said that Stevenson should play ahead of Doig. But the goal's easy, and it's really poor from Newell.
Yeah, well, me personally, I can align where you are. I personally think the onus is on the midfield. I don't think you touched. I personally think Doyle Hayes needs to get a bit closer to Scott Brown when Scott Brown puts the ball out wide. We complain enough about crosses getting blocked. I think that chip balls over the defence should also be blocked if it's possible. But Greg, I think that you're on the opposite end of the spectrum from myself and Ewan. So what did you think of the goal?
Well, I think that's quite harsh, to be honest, Harry, because as a defender, I know how frustrating it is when midfielders don't track their men. But let me take you back to a few weeks ago against St Mirren, when I asked for ownership in the box. Yes, Newell's pathetic. You know, he needs to want to work to get back in position. He doesn't. Doyle Hayes is out of position as well. The ball over is incredible how it's got over Stevenson. That's not age. That's just bad defending. Now, I watched the goal 5 or 6 times, and I watched different aspects of it. And I've seen Hanlon look at Ramirez twice. Now, he's looked at him twice, right? So he looks once, he keeps running. Ramirez is still making his way into the box. He looks again, and he still doesn't do anything to rectify it. Now, Paul Hanlon's 30-year-old? He's big enough to see with his own 2 eyes that Ramirez is in the box on his own. Okay, so regardless of what's gone before, we still have an opportunity to change it here. Ramirez gets the ball, Hanlon's about 5-6 yards away from him, nowhere near close enough, and it's such a simple finish. Now,
I think it's a good finish. I think
it's a simple finish, because he's not even have to break his stride. He's literally passed in the bottom corner. Now, Ewan said on Saturday it was a good finish, and I'll agree with him. It was a good finish, but it's not a difficult finish. So for me, Paul Hanlon being 5-6 yards off him is, again, right, not to dig him up, but that is your captain. That is your captain there that has looked at the boy twice and still not done anything about it in the box. Are you telling me that's acceptable at any level of football? And it's not the first time this season. Last week he lost his man as well. Is he undroppable? Because for me, he's next to be dropped.
He is. With the current makeup of the squad, I think he is. I don't think you've got anyone else capable. Like, I'm not saying he shouldn't be, but I think, just to bluntly answer your question, yes, I think he is. Like,
I just think that they had 2 players in the box. We had 4, 5, and they've still scored. And it's another cross. Do you know? I'm honestly sick to the back teeth of it. How many goals for crosses are we going to concede on Wednesday? Celtic like to get the ball in the box when we can't defend. It's incredible. He's 30-year-old and looked at the boy twice. And honestly, I have to watch it 5 or 6 times to understand what he's done. I still don't understand. I don't know how you can, as a defender, that experience, you can look at that and just let him go. It honestly boggles my mind. And that is why he is not good enough for Hibs. Fact.
All right. Well, Greg's come to the conclusion that we are children that aren't good enough at football. Ewan's come to the conclusion that the midfield were probably a bit lazy. But one thing, Liam, I want to call you out on. It's not really calling out, but anyway. First game of the season after the Motherwell game, I said, oh, there we go again, conceding another goal from a header, conceding another goal from a cross. And you were like, Harry, in the league last season, we didn't concede a single goal from a header. Look, you've crushed us, Liam. How do we start defending crosses? What's actually the problem? Have you managed to work it out yet? Because I said Christian Deutsch isn't there for corners last week is my solution. Liam, have you got anything for us this week? How do we defend crosses in future?
I'd just like to say I borrowed that statistic from another source. I didn't originally come up with that stat that we hadn't conceded a header from any other cross. There's a couple things for me. There's a couple problems for me. The major problem I have is the fact that we're actually sitting here in danger of giving Christian Ramirez credit for his movement. The guy's checked his run. He literally checked his run. Like, I'm not being funny, but centre forward checks run. Like, that's that's just a total non-event, and like we can break all these things down and analyse all the wee bits, and that's ultimately what we're here to do. But there's 4 or 5 things that are wrong with that. So to ask me the question, what do we do to stop conceding goals from corners or from crosses? Sorry. Well, I can't possibly break that down you, because we do 4 or 5 things wrong in one phase of play. It's not like it was one guy missing his man. There are so many things that are wrong with that goal, and there's so many things that have been wrong with goals up until this point. You know, before it was Paul McGinn was the problem, because all the crosses were coming from right hand side and Paul McGinn wasn't stopping them. Now the crosses are coming from the left, and now it's whoever the left back is this week's problem. There are just so many things that are wrong with it, and people just not taking ownership. Like, take ownership for what your job is to do inside the box, whether that's mark your man tightly, whether it's run out and fucking stop the cross, whatever it is, just take ownership. There's no ownership in this team at all. The goals against Dundee United, 3 goals that we conceded, the heads hit the floor, no one looked up at each other. That to me screams that there's an issue. Like, there is a real issue with the defence, and I don't think it's down to any one individual. I don't think it's down to any one type of goal, albeit crosses are predominantly the problem. I think it's just a real lack of ownership and accountability. Like, if you're not doing your job, or the man next to you is not doing his job, you need to have a word with him, and you need to start standing up and be counted, because at the moment we are on a horrible slide of form, and if we defend that against Celtic on Wednesday night, we could ship 6 or 7. Genuinely, I'm not even being melodramatic. We could ship 6 or 7 on Wednesday night if we defend like that.
So, sorry, just to come in there. So this is kind of what I've been saying about Hanlon, is that he's not a leader for me. He doesn't talk. There is nothing in him that screams captain. He's so quiet. Like, see, in the second half, I'm probably closer to him than a lot of others. First half, it'll be you lot, but for me, I don't hear him. I never hear him. You see at corners, you'd expect him, mark up. Just simple things like that. You don't hear him. You never hear him speak. So why is he captain? He isn't a leader. He doesn't lead anyone. He doesn't take ownership. He doesn't take responsibility. So what is he actually doing? Because he's not defending at the moment either.
I think a major thing for me, obviously the generic captain from years gone by is kind of the guy that grabs everybody by the scruff of the neck, the Scott Browns of the world, who just kind of throw people about the place and get them ordered. But I think that club culture plays quite a large part in being captain, and I think the type of guy that you can go to with off the field issues and stuff. And I think that Paul Hanlon behind the scenes is a very people person that works very well within the club, and that might not, in your opinion, equate to a good captain on the field, which is completely valid. But I do think that he has got a lot of human qualities that will have got him into that position. I don't think he's just been handed it just because he's been at the club long. I think there's a lot of things that go on that we don't know about that have led to him being a captain. Because if that was the case, then it would be Stevenson captain instead. But Ewan, did you have a take on that?
Yeah, I just think, I get what Greg's saying, and for long enough I've ignored it, and what I think we mentioned it last week, Liam said it, it is starting to worry me, the lack of reaction when goals go in. But I don't care if it's Paul Hanlon. You know what I mean? I don't actually give a flying fuck if it is. They should all be doing it. They're all grown men. They're all professional football players. I understand when it's the captain, you do look for it more. I get that. But Paul Hanlon shouldn't need to tell Joe Neal to track a man. Ryan Porteous shouldn't need to tell Paul Hanlon to mark someone. You know what I mean? Paul Hanlon shouldn't have to tell Lewis Stevenson to block across. He's the captain. The midfield shouldn't have to tell Kevin Nisbet when to make a run and when not to make a run. It's like William said, take ownership. And I think it's very easy for fans just to go, there's no screaming and shouting, right? But see, when there is loads of screaming and shouting and things are going wrong, you start saying, take ownership again. You know what I mean? It's all just how things look. It's like I get Greg mentioned earlier Jack Ross's post-match comments. I'm sure we'll come on to it in further depth later, but his interview at the weekend was shite. But at the same time, when Neil Lennon was here and having a bad time and throwing players under the bus left, right and centre, we all got sick fed up of that. Ultimately, we don't like our team getting beat, and we'll always find issues when our team get beat. Paul Hanlon being captain isn't why we've lost the last 3 games. It's just no. It's honestly, Paul Hanlon's performances, yes, played a part the same way everyone else's has. But whoever wears the fucking armband, for me, really doesn't fucking matter. Because see, who would be the other option? Ryan Porteous. Well, he was suspended, so Paul Hanlon would have got it anyway.
There are 0 leaders in the team at the moment. Everyone's like a fucking mute.
But why does being loud mean you're not a leader?
Guys, listen. All right. So Greg came to the conclusion that Paul Hanlon is not the captain for the club. Ian came to the conclusion, which is my favourite moment in the pod so far, that losing is bad and we don't like it. Anyway, speaking of losing, we're 1-0 down at half time. Nobody's particularly happy. I think, to be honest, I think I'm pretty biased because he got a nutmeg. I thought Cadden was one of the only players that looked lively in the first half, but that's probably the reason. And I was quite surprised to see him taken off at half time. Personally, I would have just went for a straight swap for Gullen and Murphy and then put Boyle up top as a more natural striker, because I think Boyle kind of had like goals of being on the wing, and I just think the players looked lost, and I'd rather have went back to something a bit more normal. Personally, also thought that Darren McGregor had one of these worst halves of football in a Hibs top in the first half. He just looked completely out of it. Like, I love Darren McGregor, but I just don't think he's at pace anymore. Did you guys agree with the halftime sub? We'll make this bit quick. Did you agree with the halftime sub, or would you have liked to see something different happen?
I didn't hate it, but like, I agree with you, Harry, and I think it is purely because he pegged Ross McCrory and got a decent cross in. Like, I thought Cadden looked all right, but I didn't hate it. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen it, and it was like, right, we're going to a flat four, Murphy's on, like let's go, sort of thing. But
at least it was something, because sometimes
you know what?
Ross has not made those changes.
I wouldn't have. I would have maybe changed the shape, but I would have given them 10 minutes in the same team before to see how it you know what I mean? Moved Cadden up to right wing, Gullen out on the left properly. You know what I mean? Like, just actually used, because it felt like a bit of a waste of a sub, if I'm honest. Changing the shape and making the sub at the same time. He could have made the shape change with the players that were on the park.
Why is Cadden the scapegoat all of a sudden? Is that not the second or third time he's been out to half time this season?
He was out to half time against Dundee United as well, was he not? Have I made that up? No, he wasn't.
It was St. Mirren was out to half time. Like, I don't get it. And do you know what? Jack Ross played on left midfield as well. And I just, what is the issue? Like, why is he all of a sudden the man that is used as a scapegoat here? Because from what I hear, he wasn't that bad in the first half. He was probably one of the more promising aspects of our game.
I don't know if it's because he is that little bit of a, not utility man, but like you say, he's been at left mid, done okay. Yeah. We wanted to try him at right back, and we think he's a right wing back. And I think we've seen that ultimately Cadden is probably a right wing back. I think even when he plays right mid, he's maybe not great. But so I think when he's moving away from 3-5-2, it was going to be a toss up between McGinn or Cadden at right back. And I think we've seen last weekend that wasn't probably an option. But I do agree, Greg, he seems to always be the see when things are going wrong, just fucking take off Boyle or Shahan. You know what I mean?
Liam, any comments on the sub at halftime?
You could have taken any one of them off, and I wouldn't have given you any argument about it. Genuinely could have taken any one of them off. I thought Cadden and Gullen probably showed the most endeavour, but I think they're two players who just run around loads anyway. So I don't know if that's maybe just the kind of players that they are. They're always going to look like they're busier. I'll be honest, and I've not called for it while watching it, but I've taken one of Doyle Hayes or Newell off at some point in the game as well, because those two have not been at the races for the last few games at all. And it's disappointing, because I think Doyle Hayes came in, looked great at the start. I think he's tailed off a wee bit, to say the least. I think Joe Newell has just been consistently below par this season, but is not getting the criticism that he probably should get from some sections of our support. I think they're aiming shots elsewhere, but I think if you look at Joe Newell's performances, right, really from the Rijeka games onwards,
since his red card,
he's not been at it. But I mean, I think this is the thing when you've lost 3 games in a row, right? Like genuinely, who are we going to be giving credit to? Who are we going to say is justifying not being substituted? So I was comfortable enough with the sub, and then even the sub after it. Would I have brought Alan on for Gullen? Probably not. No, because I don't think he gives us anything in a game against Aberdeen. I don't think up there he gives us anything that is going to get us back into the game, because we weren't getting sustained enough periods of possession for him to do what he wants to do. So, without being too negative, I just don't even know what changes he could have made. Maybe he should have brought Dre Wright on earlier. Maybe that would have made the difference.
Yeah, to be honest, I was writing a few notes before we started on what we could talk about on the second half. But the second half was one of the most bland halves of football I think we've seen in our lives. I can't remember a single shot on target, but it was just pitiful. I literally spent the second half thinking of what I could have spent £14 on that would have been more valuable to my life than that pay-per-view. And I reckon £14 scratch cards not winning anything.
My Domino's was about that much on Saturday, so that was definitely better value.
Honestly, it was absolute shambolics. But yeah, I think that Liam's right. I think there's a lot of people that are kind of flying under the radar. I think the defence is getting that much flack. We're forgetting how terrible the attack and the midfield's been.
Yep.
Have you guys got any comments on the second half, apart from the fact that it was boring and nothing happened? Because I genuinely can't think of any key moments apart from the ball getting flashed across the goal. But because Nisbet's 2 yards off it, I don't really think it's even a talking point.
I'd say that Darren McGregor's a fanny. I mean that in the nicest. About 2 minutes before it, he highlighted he tried to highlight Ramirez elbowing him. You're on a booking. Why you even touching him in the box? Having just highlighted something as well, you know what I mean? Like, you've brought attention to the fact that these situations are occurring. Why? And it just summed up his day. I mean, Harry, you said at half time he was going to get sent off or subbed off. But the second half was a complete and utter non-event. We had plenty of the ball, done fuck all with it. We were about as dangerous as a fucking newborn Labrador puppy, man. Like, you're just getting nothing for the final third players.
All right. Well, I think we've let him stew for a while. He's not said a word, and I think that his rage has built. Greg, what did you think of the overall game?
It's just what we've been saying for weeks. Honestly, I'll go back to it, but I don't know how many times at half time we text each other saying this is shit. But now we're shit for a full game instead of just half a game. Usually in the second half we actually lift it and you know, we do something, but oh my God. Like, do you know what? I had an idea that Jack Ross was maybe not so much an all-out attack manager, but Jesus, even he is taking the piss now. Like, we are, do you know what? We're not even good at being defensive anymore. We're just offering nothing. Like, not a thing. We don't counter, we don't pass the ball correctly, we don't show any aggression, any impetus. Fluidity was our best friend at the start of the season, and now it's like a divorce. We honestly have absolutely nothing. Like, I honestly don't know what he can do, if he can do anything, what the players can do. I don't know if we need to change the system again, but wow, we are eye bleeding. I would rather stick sharp pins in my eyes and watch us on Wednesday, if I'm honest. That's how bad it is.
All right, well, thankfully I'm specky, so the pins aren't going to get through to my eyeball. But one thing for me is I hate the feeling after a game, like, you know, the old saying, like, oh, it's worse when someone's disappointed than when they're angry. Like, that was one of those games where after the game I was genuinely sad. Like, I wasn't, like, pissed off. I was just like, we're in a bad place. Liam, final thoughts on the game, mate?
I'm trying so hard to move on for the game on Saturday, but I've got this like perpetual feeling just now of just wishing time away. I'm wishing time away until Porteous comes back. He's back on Wednesday. I'm wishing time to the next international break when McGuinness is back. I'm wishing time away till mid-November when Doidge is back. Because I think we're missing our best defender, we're missing our best midfielder, and we're missing our best centre forward. Now, a lot of people will question that rationale, but consistently have said that Christian Doidge, as an all-round footballer, and his value to the team is worth more to the team than Kevin Nisbet is at any stage of their two careers. And I know Doidge can go in barren spells, doesn't score lots of goals, etc., but as an all-round footballer, he offers more to the team. When we get those players back, we will absolutely improve. But what we can't do is just wish time away until those players come back, because actually we could be cut miles adrift by that point. We need to start picking up points now. And the Celtic game Wednesday is an opportunity. We have to be a shitload better than we've been in recent games to get in and from it. The Ross County game then comes on Saturday. Like, the games are coming thick and fast ahead of that break, and we need to be picking up points. Ross County and Livy last season, what happened in the games against them in December? We weren't at it, and we effectively coughed up 6 points that we should have had otherwise. So we need to snap this, and we need to snap it quick.
I know you're obviously hosting, Harry, but I want to ask a genuine question. How long has he got left? Like, say we lose the next 3 games.
I personally think that I don't think that from the board's point of view that Jack Ross is on a sticky wicket as of yet. Obviously, if he loses the 3 games, it's a very different situation. But I think going from the run we're on, I think it is an understandably difficult run. Dundee United, obviously, last week looks like a blunder, but Dundee United have proven themselves as a pretty good team at the moment. And I do think it's an unfortunate run of games. However, if we do come out of the next 2 games with 0 points, then I would definitely think that Jack Ross is running the risk of being sacked. You and any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in on the back of something Liam had said as well, I'll sort of get 2 birds with 1 stone there. Just with what Liam was saying about wishing away time to get the players back. He's right, and any team in the league, like Hearts are doing pretty well. If you took Boyce, Benigamy, and Suter out of the Hearts team, they'd struggle. That's effectively in the last couple of games what we've had with Doidge, McGuinness and Porteous being missing. But our team's still more than capable of winning against Dundee United at home, more than capable of beating a patchwork Aberdeen, like we said when we were talking about the starting 11s. Like I think we all in the last 2 weeks when we've seen the starting 11s have thought they've got a chance. And what really, really worries me, and it's sort of what Greg said about we've been shit for weeks. I don't think we've been shit for weeks, but we have been on a negative, like my job, like look at analysis and stuff. We're on like a negative trend massively since the first international break. If you
wait, could you say we're going down the slope?
If you look at the 3 sections of the season already, the first 4 games, 10 points for 12, scoring goals, still conceding some goals, but scoring goals. Obviously drew with Dundee. It was disappointing, but 10 points from the opening 12, I think everyone was pretty happy. We then come back and draw at Tynecastle, and you're still right. We're unbeaten, coming away from Tynecastle. It's a decent point, played all right. And I think the next game was St Mirren, chucked away a 2-goal lead, and then we scraped past St Johnstone and got beat by Rangers. And now then there was another international break, and now we've came back for this international break and lost the first 2 games. We took 10 points from 12, and then in the 6 league games after that, taken 4, 5. Like it's just not good enough, you know. Like, and we are, and for me, that like we can talk about injuries, and I think we're in a perfect storm right now of lacking confidence, missing players, but that team should be better than 1 win in 6, even without the players. And this is what really worries me, like what Liam's saying about like we're going to have to be a lot better on than we have been on Wednesday night. But where are we going to find that inspiration from? We're missing our best player, not necessarily our best players, but the players that will give us a spark aren't performing, and there's nothing to suggest that this trend's going to stop. I know Jack Ross seems to think that the Celtic game might be perfect for us that might bring the best out of the players, but I don't agree, because I've tried to be a fan of Jack Ross, but as people keep pointing out, he doesn't have a good record in the big games, so there's no really any historic evidence to suggest that this will bring the best out of us. And on what Greg said, if we don't take 4 points out of 6 in the next 5-6 days, I don't think he'll be under pressure from the board initially, but I think there's been a section of the fans that have never taken to Jack Ross, or they have, but obviously a few results last season. The last 3 games have given them a voice, I guess, and justification to their thoughts. If he loses the next 2, then I think he could be away. I don't think Ron Gordon's... I think he backs Jack Ross, but I don't think he's scared of making decisions. Look at getting rid of Graham Maffey. Like, I think Ron Gordon has ambitions, and if we lose the next 2 games, there's a real possibility of us being 8 or more points away from the top 4. Like, I don't think he'd get rid of him straight away, but I think Ron Gordon won't be scared to make the decision if he starts to feel like we won't qualify for Europe.
Well, fair, but I don't want to talk too much speculation.
No, of course.
But Liam, you got a point.
I think we need to be realistic here, and I think the reality is, and there's going to be at least one person in this podcast who's not going to like what I'm about to say, but I'm just going to say it. Jack Ross signed a 3-year contract in the summer. We could lose the next 2 games. we could. There's not a hope in hell he's going after the next 2 games. I think the blame, if you want to call it blame, for this period and this period of the season has already been attributed to an individual. So someone has already lost their job as a result of the place that we're in just now. So Graham Mathey no longer works for the club. So I think Hibs have already signalled very clearly who they believe is responsible for this start to the season. Now we can debate and say, well, Jack Ross picks Steve, puts players out, and I would agree with that to a certain extent. However, the board have already made the call, right, on who that person is. So we could lose the next 2 games, I think, in my head. I think we could probably lose the next maybe 3 or 4 games, and I think he would still be there. I think the game for me, for a lot of people, will be Rangers at Hampden Park. That for me has got major shades of Paul Heckingbottom against Celtic. If under all kinds of pressure, if we don't go and get a result there, I think that could be the death knell.
There's only 3 games before then as well.
I know. But Ross County and Livy are 2 of them. It's probably the bottom 2 in the league this season, in all honesty. I think we can confidently say they'll be in amongst the bottom 2 this season.
Yep.
For me though, and call it blind faith, I think from somewhere he will get the results to keep him in the job over the next few games. I think it feels like they're at crisis point because the last 180 minutes of football have been absolutely abysmal. But I think he'll get the results to keep him in the job.
I know we don't want to speculate, and this isn't about his future, but I've coming from someone that has tried to support Jack Ross. Obviously, the middle of last year had I think since then I've changed my opinion on it, shall I say? But someone at the club, right, and I don't care if it's not his style, but and it's probably sort of what Greg said recently, they monitor social media. They need, and it's whether it's even the fucking people that are asking the questions, they need to say to him that what he's almost making a rod for his back now the way he speaks to the media. Like, whether he thinks we were better on Saturday than we were against Dundee United, you've no other shot on target. You can't come out and say that we've dominated parts of the game and we never created quite enough or never tested them enough. But we never test them at all, Jack. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people must monitor social media. They have, just from a fucking PR point of view, tell him to change his tact with the media because he's doing himself no favours. And ultimately, that tied in with results. You can get away with, like, talking like that if you're scraping 1-0 wins, but when you're not even having shots on target, you need to change it. I personally think to get people back on side, he needs to change his way of handling the media as well. I know it sounds stupid, but I do think it plays a part in terms of the overall fan base opinion.
Well, you've laid Greg off. Greg, what did you think about Jack Ross's post-game comments?
It was a week before. It's just so weak. He doesn't. Do you know what? I'm not asking him to hang the players out to dry. What I'm asking him to do though is call it. Say what you see for a change. Don't continue talking utter shit about aspects of the game or we didn't create enough. We created nothing. Absolutely nothing. What does he think we created at the weekend? And he's in the media again today, and one comment he's made, we didn't do the fundamentals right against Dundee United. We were better in that respect on Saturday. Where? What is he seeing? Shit against Aberdeen. Is it because we only conceded 1 at the weekend? What is it? Like, I don't know what he sees. I genuinely don't know what he sees anymore because it's post-match interviews. You can't correlate them to the games. And what he says is pathetic and weak. Like, just call bullshit for a change. Say it's not good enough. Lazy and selfish last week didn't cover it. It's not strong enough. He goes on about a reaction. What is the reaction? We can see 2 less goals?
Took longer to have a shot on target.
No, this is what I mean. So, it's just... just say what you see, for fuck's sake.
I have to say,
I'm honestly bored of him, and I'm bored of his piss poor interviews after games. Like, even before the games now, the interview again for Celtic is incredibly bad. Like, I actually can't be arsed with him anymore. Usually I would get annoyed at him, but now I actually can't be arsed because it's just pathetic. I've got a group for a long time that created and scored plenty. I have faith in them to get back to that. Mate, we concede goals like nothing else. We don't create, so why not call it both? Like, he bores the life out of me now. He honestly does. He is such a boring guy. There we go. I've said it. He's so beige, it's incredible. But it's okay because he wears white trainers on the touchline.
Well, to be honest, you've worked up enough sadness from me that if you were a charity case, I would be calling the hotline now and I'd be donating at least a tenner after that, because that was very saddening.
Just get on the phone to Ron Gordon and get him to say.
Harry, just before you move us on, right? What, as someone that works in that like PR and journalism industry, what's your take on the way that Jack Ross presents himself on the back of things? You know what I mean? Like, if you were like an agent or something, would you advise that method? Or like, surely he's got to recognise his audience a wee bit. You know what I mean?
I'm very personality driven in the way I do my work and when I work with people, and I always think that people should be themselves where possible. And I think that Jack Ross does that to his own detriment. I think that Jack Ross is very much himself when he goes to post-match pressers. I think he's a very composed person that doesn't get angry very often. And I think for people that are very emotionally invested in things, that you are going to get irritated when you see someone as calm and not pointing fingers as Jack Ross does. I think that's why Neil Lennon at first, when he went on his tirade saying this player's rubbish, that player's rubbish, we played terrible, it resonates with fans because we're in the stands thinking it. But as soon as you've got a manager that's like, well, we done this and that well, that we probably did, but because we're angry, we're not acknowledging. Because the thing is, we need to understand we're fans watching it, but he goes in training every day and he teaches them to do different things. And if they go out there and do it on the pitch, obviously in his head it's a tick, but we can't see the checklist. So how are we supposed to know if they've done certain things well that we've not acknowledged? But yeah, I'm not going to tell Jack Ross or
no,
team how to do their presses. But
I was just curious.
That's what I say. Yeah, be yourselves, guys. Yeah, go on, you're a superstar. Before we move on from Jack Ross's post-game comments, Liam, have you got anything to touch on that, or you think we've got all the bases covered?
I think we've got all the bases covered. I'm just going to really quickly expand on. I criticised him last week for his best version of ourselves stuff that he hit out after Dundee United. I didn't like it because I think it's corporate nonsense, and I stand by that. And I think Jack Ross is someone who is very aware of his own image and his own PR, and I don't think that for me is not a criticism, but I think he has a certain awareness of it, but I don't think necessarily he's worried about how he's portrayed by fans like us. Just going to say it how it is. I think he's probably more worried about how he's portrayed in other circles. So read into that what you will, but
needs to start winning games because Robbie Nielsen's flavour of the month now. No Jack Ross.
I just think back to when he did that interview with the Hibs.net guys, the Hibs.pod interview, and he started off jokingly by saying, "Are you the guys that tell me I should be sacked every couple of weeks?" Is this the forum that says I should be sacked every couple of weeks? And that was an awful cuff jovial comment. I'm sure it was meant to be funny, but I think there is an element of him that's. I don't think he'll be concerned himself with the pressure that he's getting for football fans on Twitter and whatever other social media.
Yeah, and do you know what? Nor should they either. Like you know what I mean. It's their job to manage the team, but I think someone at the club just needs to say, or even just change the fucking way they're asking the questions, because they're. I mean, imagine being a social media guy at Hibs today on the back of the interview. That's been they've. Just constant quote retweet after quote retweet after quote retweet, like just.
Well, it's that and being accused of being Nazis. I mean, it's been a tough day for us on social media.
All right, well, we're moving on. All right, so I think we're just about done enough to put that game behind us. There was terrible defending the crossing. There was not a lot going on in the midfield or attack. There was some shoddy post-game comments and all-round rage from the Hibs support. I'm glad that certain fans managed to win there. We said that we had a bad transfer window trophy. Congratulations for that. I hope you hold that very high above your head if you won that at the weekend, and at least you got a win. So moving on, as we've touched on a few times, we've got Celtic coming up midweek. Start of the season, if you said to us you've got Celtic coming up midweek, you would be absolutely buzzing. They were in absolute disarray. But to be fair to Big Ange, they've actually been playing some quite nice football, and the defenders that looked absolute bomb scares at first, like Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers, have actually come into their own, and they actually look pretty solid at the back, I think, in the last few games.
I still think you can get on them, like.
All right, well, you interjected first, so you kick us off. What are you expecting to see from the Celtic side, and how can Hibs actually bounce back from what was an abysmal couple of performances?
Hibs need to play like they did it. Hibs need to set up in the. I don't know if we can. We can play the exact same team that played at Ibrox. Take the game to them. Try and counter quickly when they lose the ball. It's the only chance we've got. You managed to do it at half an hour at Ibrox until you went down to 10 men, and there's obviously been certain things said on the back of that the players have lost their faith and stuff like that. But try and do that. I don't think Celtic are good at the back. They kept a clean sheet against. Who was it they played at the weekend at home? St Johnstone. Well, like St Johnstone have got Chris Kane up front. Like they kept a clean sheet at Motherwell, but I thought they were fucking shite against Aberdeen at the back. Aberdeen really should have taken points off them. Celtic were just marginally better than a shite Aberdeen. We were just marginally worse than a shite Aberdeen. Like Celtic, I don't think are great at the back, but I'll be honest. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think we will score one or two, but I think we're going to be on the end of doing. Normally I come on and say try and be positive. Nah. I think we'll get pumped on Wednesday. I really, really do. I've got Kevin Nisbet's hardly kicked a ball all season. I don't see any. I've said it so often. I've got honestly, Harry. I cannot be fucked. I think we're going to get fucked on Wednesday. It's going to feel like the first proper game back because there's going to be a full away end, and honestly, it's going to be miserable, mate. I cannot see any good coming for this.
Right, well, the bar has been lowered. Greg, are you going to try and smash it through the floor, or are you going to try and raise the bar and give us some positivity?
Well, I mean, if I was Celtic's defence, I would not be concerned about Wednesday for a start. I mean, you goes on about Chris Kane. I mean, I think he's scored the same amount of goals as Kevin Nisbet this season.
Aye.
You know, let's not have glass houses and all that. I mean,
hey, I'm calling them all shite.
I don't know what Jack Ross done before the Rangers game. Maybe it was a bump in the head. Maybe it was a wee bit of bravery. You never know. But I honestly think it could be ridiculous on Wednesday. I think there are some scorelines that are absolutely unacceptable, and I think it could be one of them. I think it could be more than 4. To be honest, I called it last week. I said it'd be 1-0 Aberdeen. I was right. I think it'll be more than 4 on Wednesday. Hibs are devoid of anything. Poachers comes back, so that's a bit of aggression, but there's nothing going forward. We still can't defend. So, I've honestly got zero hope for Wednesday. And to be honest, I don't think any Hibs fan would disagree at the moment, based on what I've seen off Twitter the last few days.
Good luck, Liam.
Well, Liam, Ewan put the bar into the ground. Greg stood on top of it and stamped it so it can no longer be seen. Can we retrieve the bar, or are you also feeling a bit crap for Wednesday?
I don't have a huge amount of faith in this team to turn it around. What I will say that I think we need to do is I think we absolutely need to start the game well, because if we don't start the game well, that however many thousand are on Easter Road on Wednesday night are going to be on that team's back straight away. So there needs to be a desire, there needs to be an appetite to chase after the ball. We've not got possession, we need to hunt for it, we need to hunt and try and actually win possession back. We can't just allow Celtic to just come to Easter Road and just have it all their own way. We've got a good record against them at Easter Road. We absolutely need to take the game to them. I don't know what that means in terms of personnel. I don't know what that means in terms of shape. But just when Celtic have the ball, we have to press them. When Starfelt has the ball, in particular at the back, we need to press them. Carter Vickers, I don't think either of them are any cope, by the way, just my opinion, but I've seen a fair bit of them, and I don't think either of them are any cope. So there just has to be a level of intensity about us on Wednesday night. Do you know what? If we lose the game, but we actually have a goal and there's some intensity, I probably wouldn't accept it, but it'll be almost palatable. But if we lose to Celtic without putting up a fight, God help us.
Sorry, Liam. I just feel what Liam said there. I see under like Hecky, and we drew 0-0 with them, and we just sat in. 1-1. We sat in, dodged. It was the own goal, and we just sat in. It was shite, and we got lucky. And then when Jack Ross with the same team, sort of just sat in against Rangers, and we got comfortably beat 3-0. But then the next time we played Rangers at Ibrox, I think we spoke about it last season, I think, and we said it looked like he'd learned. Mine went to Ibrox, had a bit of a goal, we went 1-0 up. Ultimately, he came up away from it. There's ways to lose games. And this Hibs team this season, and in fact, I'll be honest, this Hibs team in this season and last season, when they lose, oh yeah, fucker. Like, when I can't think of a game that we've lost where I thought we were a bit unlucky, or like Liam said, at least we gave it a go. Ross County at home, Livy at home, Dundee United, that Aberdeen game, like the St Johnstone semi-final, the St Johnstone final. Like, I can't really think of many games. We don't lose all that many, but when we lose, it feels like it's always a case of nobody, like the players not showing up. And I really hope that Liam's right and that if we do get beat, at least have a goal. And I think we're going to score goals on Wednesday. I don't really know why, but I think mainly because Celtic are shit. But I think we're going to get pumped. I think it's going to be 5-2 Celtic. That's my prediction. 5-2 Celtic. I think we
my
might.
prediction is we'll get 0 shots on target again.
You'll never made a goal.
How long is it acceptable for us to have 0 shots on target? For me, it's not acceptable to have any games with 0 shots.
Oh no, it's not. It's not acceptable.
Like it's piss poor. But I honestly just think we offer nothing going forward and defensively. So why would that change? Why would that change on Wednesday?
I think we're going to go 1-0 up early, but we're going to be 3-1 down at half time. And then it'll go 4-1, 4-2, 5-2. That's my exact prediction for the game.
Well, thank you for the play-by-play, and thank you for not letting me interject with my pre-game ramble.
We can give you a pre-game ramble.
No. Since we've started, Greg, what are you going for a score prediction? I just want a score prediction and maybe a
5-0 Celtic.
5-0 Celtic. All right. Well, not too positive. We're conceding 5 from 2 people. Liam, any more positive than that?
4-0.
So we're conceding 5, then scoring 2, then we're conceding
Harry Gear's your thoughts on the game, mate. We have fucking snapped that bar into a million little pieces. Have you got super glue?
All right, I've got some super glue. So the main positive is the fact that at home against Celtic, we seem to not lose for one reason or another. Even under Hecky, when I think we were worse at that moment under Hecky than we are now, and Celtic were probably up to how they are. However, I do remember, I think it actually might have been the last time we got beat by Celtic was my birthday, and we got pumped 5-0. So yeah, and that was it 5-0? I'm sure it was 5-0. Easter Road was a while back now.
Oh yeah, the season we got relegated. That was the last time we lost in the league, but they beat us in the cup at Easter Road. But in the league, it was 4-0. Sam Stanton actually looked alright. It was 4-0. I'm sure it was the season we got relegated. I'm sure Van Dijk scored a free kick.
He did die.
He would have died.
Unsurprising, but I think the main 2 threats that I'm worried about. I think that Kyogo Furuhashi, very good player. I think that Jota boy I didn't even realise it was signed. And then he just started doing bits in Europe, so he seems like quite a baller. But apart from that, if we keep those 2 contained, what are Celtic going to do to us? But like for me, the team lineup is crucial. If we start the same midfield, I really like Doyle Hayes and I really like Joe Newell. I think as a midfield 2, they don't work at all. If that starts in the midfield 2, I genuinely will not watch the game. I'm not going to watch us have no midfield for a second game in a row. I think that's an embarrassment. Personally, I would rather see Josh Campbell come in the team and have a 3 in the midfield than play those 2 alone together. It just didn't work. I wouldn't hate to see Gogic tried out, just because I think his performances compared to other midfielders hasn't been worse than them. So it's not really merit to Gogic.
I fully agree, Harry.
It's more just trying to keep it fresh. In terms of the defence, I'm glad Porteous is back. I think you kind of have to put Doig back in. Just Lewis Stevenson doesn't have the legs to play twice in 4 days. Darren McGregor obviously definitely needs to drop out of the team after that performance. I don't think we can shoehorn 3 players onto the right-hand side because it's clearly not working having Cadden, McGinn and Boyle all on the right. But long story short, I'm going to give us a slither of optimism. I'm going to say the final score will be 2 each. Do I believe that?
Sliver of optimism and we don't even fucking win.
See, the thing is, like,
I predicted 5-1 2 weeks ago.
Furuhashi and Jota both strike me as like Celtic players. Like, see, when you think like back 10, 15 years ago when Celtic were actually all right and exciting and played Champions League football, I think those are the type of players that they would have. And that's making me worried that Celtic are actually getting back to being a relatively good team. So I'm hoping that we can take advantage of them not quite being there. And that's why I'm hoping that we can get a good result weekend. But
look,
it's such a big ground.
I find just as well, just to look at it from I know we're not positive in that. This is a big, and I feel I've said it a lot, but see on the back, this is a big game for us. No, even if you disregard, see if we'd come into this with 2 wins, but the table stayed the same. Say we'd started poor in the season. Like I expect I think Dundee United have got Livy, I think, during the week. And obviously we've got Celtic, Hearts have got St Johnstone. Like, we could end up being 8 points off the top 4 if results didn't go our way on Wednesday. Coming into the international break, we were what, a point or 2 off top? Like, it's a big game. And then you've got like as far as I can see, during the week and the weekend's fixtures, not getting too far ahead, the fixtures aren't really kind to us, I don't think. So we really need points this week. Otherwise, it's getting to the point where we can kiss Europe goodbye. Because I personally think 10, 12 points, you're no catching.
Well,
I really don't.
I think the main thing, I don't think that points are the main thing we need from this particular game against Celtic. I think the main thing's momentum. I think that we're at an absolute standstill, and the players just don't look like they've got any belief. As Liam said, if we go out and we actually put a performance in, even if we get beaten, we've played well. I think that it'll give the players a bit of belief moving forward. But at the moment, there's nothing. The team just looks dead. And I think we need something to lift us. That's the main thing I want from this game.
Do you think this game feels a bit?
Because do you know what? Every game's a big game when you get beat.
Yeah.
That's 2 weeks in a row being beaten. Conceded 4, scored none. Of course, it's a big game. You know, we need something to hold on to. In my opinion, if it gets to the point where Europe's out of sight and he's gone.
Do you feel like it's a bit like the Rangers game after the League Cup semi in January last year? Ultimately, we got beat, but we played okay, and then that did sort of arrest the slide, and we obviously got the season back on track after that. Do you think Wednesday's got similar vibes to that?
Yeah, I think that he needs to do something because, like, at least at the Rangers game, we came out, we had a wee bit of fight about us. But Jesus, we are bland at the moment and we show nothing. I think all we want is a wee bit of hope. Hope that things are actually going to get better. But yeah, if it gets to the point where Europe's now no longer looking unlikely, then for me, he's got to go. Now, it's not, do you know what? It's not acceptable for us to finish third once in a blue moon. Like, it's not. And do you know what? The club come out and give you all this stuff about how we want to be up there challenging every year. Well, you can't just challenge once and then that's it. You know, we need to do it consistently year on year. And this isn't an overreaction. This is what's staring us in the face at the moment.
I think you have to you have to contextualise everything. I think it's 3 bad results consecutively, two in particular bad results consecutively. But a lot of that is allied by ill feeling that exists from the end, how last season ended, and I don't think that that's gone away, and I question whether that will ever go away. But actually, I could see how a lot of people looking into this might think this is quite reactionary, because we're talking about really 2 games that we've lost.
Aye.
And in isolation, 2 games that we've lost. So there'll be a lot of people who are looking in going, this is a bit over the top. But actually, I think the reality is, and I'm certainly not minded that way, I'm 100% not Ross out, and I think I need to just be really clear on that. But I do think that things need to improve, and I think they need to improve quickly. I don't think we've got a few games to turn it around. I don't know if I agree that if we fall 10 or 12 points behind, that Europe's out of reach, because we're still at this stage of the season. There's still 90 points to play for. So 10 points to me feels a bit of a it feels a bit of a stretch. I think just with the number of European places that are up for grabs this season as well. And if I'm being honest, I mean, they were obviously a lot better than we were last Saturday, but I don't think Dundee United are as good a side as people are making out all of a sudden. I know they're in a nice place in the league and they're doing well, but I don't think they'll keep this run going. And I don't, to be honest, think that I think the league's more competitive, because I think there's less difference between that kind of core sort of group of sort of 6, 7, 8 teams in the middle of the league. But I really don't think that Dundee United and other sides like that are as strong as people make them out to be. But I do also think Aberdeen will improve. I think, they will improve over the course of the season. I don't think they were good on Saturday. I think they only really created one chance themselves on Saturday that I remember. So, yeah, it's a long season.
I guess when I say we could be, of course, that is a hypothetical. That's probably if we lose both games and other results don't go our way, which has certainly been the case probably in the last couple of weeks as well. But I just would, on the other end of that, if we win on Wednesday, then you're right back in it. I mean, you are right back there if you win. If we win 2 in 4 days, we could be sitting third. You know what I mean? That is possible. And there is similar parallels to this exact stage of the season under Lennon. With the Derby win against Hearts, we were sitting in the bottom 6 at that point before we beat Hearts on the same mat on the 10th game of the season, I think it was, and that moved us up the table. I'd done a tweet on the back of Hibs tweeting out because they got some absolute pelters. There's been some real parallels between and that team. What did that team led to? Probably the best team I've ever seen at Easter Road that I can in memory. Obviously, I was really young when we had Sosie and that. In my time of being, I can remember. So as much as I'm being quite negative tonight, I'm aware that it can change, and I'm not Ross out just now, and I don't think I would be even if the next 2 games don't go our way. But I think it's huge. It really is, and I think he could be, if we don't get positive results at the next 2 games. And I agree performance wise, but we need points as well. And if we don't get it, then I think he's going to be struggling with a lot of the fan base.
Come on, Harry, ask me. Come on now.
Wait a second, mister. I'm just going to 10 minutes to confirm Ewan by saying, I was going to make a comment, but it's gone. Anyway, Greg, what are you saying?
Look, a lot is made of my bed sheets been out the window, and I can tell you they're out the spare room window and my bedroom window at the moment.
Greg was on his hands and knees writing Jack Ross out on 7 bed sheets. He's been hanging them up all over Edinburgh.
see if I'm honest.
The earth is flat. The graffiti all over the place. Jack Ross out is overtaking them.
To be honest, next it'll be a big sheet on the roof with Jack Ross out. I think it's done now. To be honest, I think the decline we're in is so worrying.
That's it. It is worrying.
I mean, we showed nothing other than the half hour against Rangers. We've been absolutely terrible. And do you know what? It's been weeks now. I mean, we could see this coming with Heckingbottom, and when the form started slipping, it then turned into an absolute disaster. But this is going the same way. If we're all totally honest with ourselves, it is going the same way.
Well, one thing I'll counteract that with is I think Heckingbottom had an alright start to his career. Obviously, the top 6 wasn't ideal, but I think Heckingbottom was sacked as soon as we lost against Rangers. And I think that Jack Ross has got a feeling for me that fans will never be happy because we got beat off St Johnstone in the cup final. And I'm not saying you're in that category, but I think there's definitely fans that won't forgive that at any point. I think we could genuinely go and win the league this year, and people would still have question marks over the fact we lost 2 big games in one season.
I mean, I'm really not that bad. But
I know you're not.
No,
but
I mean, to be honest, for me, last season, if I'm honest, I did want him out at the end of last season.
Aye.
Because
two pints away, Ewan also wants him out. So, as we've experienced after the semi-final,
I
don't want to chat too much speculation over Jack Ross's job. I don't think it's particularly fair or healthy. Ewan can wave his Jim Goodwin flag in at any point he wants, as we know he loves to wave when he's drunk. But yeah, apart from that,
Liam, what are you laughing at? When you were steaming on fucking Saturday in the group chat, you were. In fact, it was Sunday.
Taking the piss at you.
Right, but the main
Jim
thing is,
Goodwin with his job.
Sean Mackey will be back from injury soon, and Ewan will throw him in the first team. And then we'll have Christian Deutsch to defend our corners, and we'll be speaking to you on Thursday night. We'll be recording Thursday night, potentially Friday night, chatting about Hibs playing Celtic. But thank you very much for listening. If you've managed to actually get through all this rambling, I'm so impressed because we've been chatting utter nonsense as usual, but we've had a good time doing it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that has been Dan Slope. Thank you for listening.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
Cheers.
Cheerio.